On tonight's lesson, title of it is God is all powerful, all present, and all knowing. And that's kind of why I read the scripture that I did to kind of open us up on. But if I could get a reader, somebody to read Psalms 139 verses 1 through 18, and then Jeremiah 32 and 17.
I got some.
You got some. Okay, so Trey's gonna read Psalm 139, 1 through 18, and then we'll just pick up on when we get to question number 4. We'll pick up with Jeremiah 32, 17 when we get there. All right.
Oh Lord, you have examined my heart and know everything about me. You know when I sit down or stand up. You know my thoughts even when I'm far away. You see me when I travel and when I rest at home. You know everything I'll do. You know what I'm going to say even before I say it, Lord. You go before me and follow me. You place your hand of blessing on my head. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me, too great for me to understand. I can never escape from your spirit. I can never get away from your presence. If I go up to heaven, you are there. If I go down to the grave, you are there. If I ride the wings of the morning, if I go by the farthest ocean, even there, your hand will guide me and your strength will support me. I could ask the darkness to hide me and the light around me to become night, but even in darkness, I cannot hide from you. To you, the night shines as bright as day. Darkness and light are the same to you. You made all the delicate inner parts of my body and knit me together in my mother's womb. Thank you for making me so wonderfully complex. Your workmanship is marvelous. How well I know it. You watched me as I was being formed in utter seclusion, as I was woven together in the dark of the womb. You saw me before I was born. Every day of my life was recorded in your book. Every moment was laid out before a single day had passed. How precious are your thoughts about me, O God. They cannot be numbered. I cannot even count them. They outnumber the grains of sand, and when I wake up, you're still with me.
Amen. So our first question of tonight is just focused on the first 6 verses, and I know it's an easy answer to this question, but I hope we can elaborate on it just a little bit more than just saying everything. So the question is, according to these verses, what does God know about you?
I mean, the answer is everything, but it's like, he knows everything because he's the one that created us, and like how everything that he has planned for our life, he knows it. So he knows everything that we're going to do.
Amen. Deontay?
I would say that, he knows not just everything about you, but he knows how you react to certain things. That's why he puts certain people in certain situations in your life to make you do a certain thing. He knows the path you would take in certain situations. It gets down to the cellular level, how much he knows about it.
As Debo would say, anybody else?
Like another thing, he doesn't just know just us, or just like a select group of people. He knows everything about everybody.
Yes. So with that being said, when I was, like I said, the simple answer is everything. So, sometimes we think that there are things that maybe like when we're, we think like, I'm the only person that knows this about myself, nobody else knows. We know by just reading that, but that's not, like Trey said, it's kind of, some things like that about God is hard to comprehend because it's not just talking about like just 1 or 2 people, it's talking about like everybody in the world. He knows like everything about you, like what you thinking, what you doing, where you been, what you gonna do. And I think we really struggle trying to trying to grasp it, and I think other times we don't really think about it enough. You know what I mean? Because if we knew that really, if God does knows everything about me, then I think if we were more, I guess the word like conscious of it more often, I think it would have a greater effect on how we approach certain things. You know, because I think a lot of times it's easy to, you know, we just get caught up into. I'll give you an example because I always use, and I've learned to to get beyond that. Like, you know, like at work, it's easy to get caught up into, you know, complaining and griping and all that stuff. You know, when everybody else is doing it. You know what I'm saying? When you stop and think, so like when I've been on late, I've been like, you know what? I'm like, man, we pretty fortunate to have the job we have. You know, like, how much would you make? Like one of our job duties is like we had to clean the station up in the morning. Maybe 10 minutes. It's like, where was you gonna go for like 10 minutes? They're gonna pay you. So I always like put something on there, like trying to make people think like the opposite of like being, oh man, we gotta do this, man, we gotta do that. You know, we just more so being thankful because, and the point I'm trying to make is just like being conscious, like, man, God don't want me complaining about everything that goes on, you know what I'm saying? And just jumping on board because, well, Tamia complaining, so I guess I'll complain. So I can, you know, give my 2 cents in. Amen. Anybody else on number 1? So question number 2 said, is it a good thing or a bad thing to know that God knows everything, and why?
I say it's a convicting thing.
A convicting thing?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. You want to elaborate a little bit?
I mean, when you really think about how much of everything he knows about us, like, I mean, we over here chasing God, and really, like, he already knows if we're gonna choose him or not. I don't know, I guess that's very convicting when I think about it. And I think that even if no matter how good you think you are at hiding something, is someone knows everything about you. And that's always convicting.
I would say, like, I don't know. I mean, as a person, I would want to say no, that you know, because of those things that are going to convict me. You know, because he does know what you're thinking. He does already know what you're going to choose, and you can't hide it. I mean, everybody else you can hide something, but you can't hide anything from him. So I guess the flesh side of me would say, no, I don't like that he knows everything. But if you're trying to live your life for God and you know that he knows what you're going to do, then I think you're more cautious to move too quick, or, you know, you seek his answer. Ask him, yeah, before you move. Thank you.
I say it is a good thing. I mean, it is a good thing that he knows it all, and then just because it just, I don't know. There's no need to try to hide anything because he already knows it. So you can almost just like, you know, it's like a side of religion. It's not, you don't have to keep anything from him because he already knows it. But I feel like he wants us to share those things, whether they're good or bad, you know, like whatever that's going on within us. I mean, of course, he already knows it, but he wants us to vocalize that, you know, as a way of, you know, that communication, that relationship between us and him, you know, that's the intimate part, you know, that he desires from us. You know, I feel like, and he makes it easy that because we don't have to share those things with anybody else. And because he already does know it, when we say, oh, I don't like this or I don't feel good about whatever, he can handle our answers. He can handle everything, but he wants us to come to him without having to make us all. He wants that. I think he wants for us to want to come to him and share everything, even, the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything, because we can't, as humans, when people tell us some things, we might snap or, we overreact and, go off the deep end or whatever, when people tell us certain things. But with God, it's like, you can't surprise him. It's like, okay, he's listening and he's shaking his head, he's listening and taking it all in. But everybody else, if you tell them some things about you that they're not ready to handle, like, oh my gosh, and it might be too much for one, when you might can tell to somebody else, but God can tell everything. So.
You look at it like a parenting standpoint, there's things your parents knew about you that you didn't think that they knew, so you might think you got away with something, and then, I was a good child, but there are things my mom, she wouldn't say anything at the moment, but then she would, ask me about something later, and be careful or quiet about it, but she knew everything. And so God is even greater than that. So, I mean, I don't know what else to say about that. You just can't get away with it. And is he gonna step out there and spank you or punish you or something? No. But it's just something just to just, and if you're aware of it, your walk will be easier. Situations and it's just a consequence.
I feel a good thing because I think sometimes I think both of y'all kind of hit on a little bit, but I can't remember. I think sometimes be careful not to think that whenever God is like you said, to condemn, he's not looking to win those things. And I think sometimes the good thing about God and everything about you is that regardless of what it is, there are things that we talked about last week. If I could share stuff with you about it, you'd be like, but God already knows. And the fact of it is, like, him knowing the worst and the best about us, but just focusing more on the worst about us, is that sometimes, we think that, God don't respond like people, but God, in spite of, he said, like, while we were yet sinners, he gave his life, He didn't wait for us to get things squared away and figured out before he gave his life, and it's the same way with his love. He doesn't, because whatever's going on, he doesn't look at you and say like, well, I don't really love you like I did before. He loves us in spite of us being who we are. And I think whenever people can grasp that, because I don't care what people say, man can't function like that. Maybe sometimes man can, but for guys, like, all the time, he's like, he can take it. Like, if you're whatever you're in, he can take it and be like, well, God, I did this. Like, well, I still love you. But God, you don't know. Like, yes, I do, but I still love you. And sometimes with people, we can go share with somebody and be like, oh, it's all good. And then after a while, you notice, like, your phone may not be blowing up like it was before, or you might not get invited to where it was like before. Just or you might be like, well, how did this person hear about that? You know, whatever God knows about you, he's not going there and share with somebody else. Man, you what Deontay did, or like, nah, he was like that before, but nah, he's like, I don't really. God's not like that, you know. So I think it's a good thing that he knows everything about us because he's not, like you said, when you go to God, he's not like, oh man, I didn't know you was doing that. He's not surprised by any of it. You know, what he wants to do is that, I think I might have shared a little bit the other day, whatever it is, that thing is that, you know, quote unquote, secret sin, you know, which is not, I mean, obviously, but maybe secret to others, but not to God. And so it's like, that thing is like what you know, what God really wants to talk about the most, I believe, in each one of our lives. You know, like where, you know, it's great to be like, you know, like when, like you mentioned parenting, when your kid does something like they win something or they get a kind of award or whatever, it's like, those are things that, you know, we like to, you know, they'll come and talk to us about and share about, oh, I got this, I made the honor roll, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, those conversations was like, hey, mom, I need to talk to you. And you can tell by the tone, it's not like, I'm not really excited, or a lot of times you don't even talk about it at all because of fear that you're going to be treated differently, disciplined, or whatever it may be, you know what I'm saying? And, but like I said, with God is not like that. He's like, you know, I want you to come and talk to me about it, because you trying to figure it out and correct it yourself. It's just not gonna, you know, it's not gonna work. So
Nathan had a comment.
Says it's a good thing because we don't have to hide who we are. We don't have to be fake. We can just be ourselves, and people can fall in and out of love, but God is always faithful.
do you think we, just in general, people in general, do you think we do that like, I just say like in the body of Christ, we like set the like, and I gotta look a certain way, I gotta talk like, everything good, you know what I'm saying, everything's fine. Do we do that? Yeah. Because of, like he said, free, like what he said, I'm assuming he's talking about like before Christ, but I think the goal or the mark is to be like, you know what, to live that like, and not to say that everybody has to know all your business, but just be like, you know what, man, I'm hurt, I'm struggling with some stuff. You know, you may not share with everybody in front of the whole group, but you may pull one person to the side, you know what I'm saying, be like, hey, can I talk to you about this is what's going on? And if that person that you're sharing with has the heart of God, then you should get a response back. You know what I'm saying? The way that the Christ will respond to you. You know, I had a friend text me last night, and he sent me this article, and it was a guy that went to this church, and so he he went there, and he was and I just read the article. It wasn't no picture, but so the guy was dressed like a woman, and so the pastor asked him in front of the whole, he asked him like, you need to leave. And so I was like, and it was some messed up, because I guess they had met like one-on-one before, you know, and I was like, and we kind of had different, I read how he read, we had different point of view, but I was like, you know, you gotta be really careful, like how, just how you respond to people that's not, because at the bottom of the people comment like, see, that's how people in church are, you know, they, you know, front you out or blast you out in front of, you know what I'm saying, to make you feel like you have to be. And so my response to him was like, well, like, how do you think Christ would have responded to this person? You know what I'm saying? I don't, just based upon what I read and different stuff, like, I don't think he was doing like the church. You know, if somebody comes into somebody going to a hospital that's sick or injured, they don't go there and the doctor be like, well, you need to get out of here, we're not gonna help you. You know, that's my own, you know, that's what I believe. So I just think important to respond to people the way that Christ would respond to them. But you can't do that in your own feelings and opinions and all that stuff. You know, it has to be with the heart of Christ. Any other comments? Question number 3, this could be verses 7 through 12. It said, according to these verses, where is God?
Everywhere we can think of, and even more, those places we can't.
Like, I'm not gonna say it yet. You want me to say something? No. Thought your hand was going on. Anybody else? You know, so this age group is, the majority of this group is pretty young, so how many of y'all have like a 1 year, 5 year plan for life? Anybody got 1 year? Oh. Okay, a 1 month plan? 6 month plan? I guess like she says, places that, whatever you have plans for, it's like, we'll just go like tomorrow. God's already in tomorrow. He already knows. Like each and every person in the world, he knows like, like if your life is a book, he knows if you're like, he knows if you're right here in the book. He knows if you're like, man, tomorrow's your to the book. But we don't know that. And he does. But he's already there regardless of if it's tomorrow or whether it's like I said, just some stuff about God because he was like, God was before the beginning and will be after the end. And so it's like, where, like I said, you can say he's everywhere. It's just like, I don't think we can like really wrap our minds around that. Like I said, we all have our own plans, like one day I want to do this, do that, and God already knows this. So I can't remember who said it earlier. It's like the plans that they'll for life, if you follow and God leads you to exactly where they're supposed to be, you know what I'm saying? But I just think it's pretty amazing that, that he's way beyond what we can even comprehend.
Devo said he's everywhere. There's no place that you can possibly go to.
Nowhere to go to. But there's that too, like I'm trying to think of a good example. Like I can use an example like everybody knows the story of the prodigal son. How even when he hit his bottom in life, God was still there too. And that's important to do because sometimes you can think like, man, I'm like it, nowhere else to go. Question number 4, and I'll have somebody read Jeremiah 32:17 before we answer the verses 13 through 18. Matter of fact, we'll read those verses again, 13 through 18, and then read Jeremiah 32:17. And then the question is, what do these verses say about God's power?
Psalm 139, 13 through 18.
Yes.
For thou hast possessed my reins. Thou hast covered me in my mother's womb. I will praise thee, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are thy works, and that I know right well. My substance was not hid from thee when I was made in secret, and curiously wrought in the lowest parts of the earth. Thine eyes did see my substance, yet being unperfect, and in thy book all my members were written, which in continuance were fashioned, when as yet there was none of them. How precious also are thy thoughts unto me, O God! How great is the sum of them! If I should count them, they are more than man. When I awake, I am still with thee. Ah, Lord God, behold, thou hast made the heaven and the earth by thy great power and stretched out arm, and there is nothing too hard for thee.
So the question is, what do these verses say about God's power?
Limitless.
Limitless. Limitless.
Nothing you can't do. So I just think it's crazy that we still doubt. You know, there's literally nothing that man can't do.
Why you think there's doubt? You think we do that?
Human.
Okay.
I mean, it kind of connects with like the question before. It's like, or was it? It was two back when it says, "Is it good that he knows everything?" Because like he's all powerful and all knowing. Like you wouldn't. I mean, there'd really be no point in serving God that wasn't all powerful and all knowing. If they would just tell you, be like, "Oh yeah, I can fix this, but I can't fix that."
Yeah.
I think the deeper your faith is, the more you believe in God's power.
I believe that. Because I think it's seeing and also remembering what he's done before. You know, even if not now, I'm like, well, I'm a lie about that's the answer, but before I get into it, yeah. You have a comment? No, just you think about like how I think sometimes, you read the Bible and, you like talking about faith, if you have a faith of a mustard seed, you can move mountains, and you think about like how you think about when Peter walked on water, and I mean, just different accounts like the centurion that, he just asked God to like, just speak a word. You even got to go over there and speak the word, and I believe that. And we read that, and it's like, oh man, but I think sometimes, for whatever reason, we don't connect, or whatever reason, that God hasn't changed. Things he did in the Bible, he's still more than of those days, And I think it's sometimes kind of crazy how we can, we believe that God's power. I mean, to believe, which is a struggle for a lot of people to believe, the resurrection of Christ. You know what I'm saying? It's like me to tell me that he was like crucified and he's buried, and on the 3 days he rose again. For a lot of people, it's just not as like, but for those that do believe and have that faith to say they do believe that, but then in life in general, now if God is that powerful, and things come up in your life and it's like, man, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get this done. And it's like, but he's the same God that raised Jesus from the dead. He's the same God that, allowed, because it wasn't Peter's strength walking on that water. It was like Peter's faith in God, you know what I'm saying? And just all these different stories about like faith and believing in the power of God. God would that it's like I believe, but you seeing, you know, because sometimes we believe that, well, what if, what if he doesn't answer me? The way I think was like, well, God is still that, not that he, because, at the end of the verses, there's nothing too hard for you. And I think about the faith of like the Hebrew boys, Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego. They were like, these were teenagers, young men were teenagers, and they were like, and the king was like throwing them in the furnace because they wouldn't bow down and worship idol gods. And they were just like, well, you know what? You put us in there, but our God is able to save us. Even if he decides not to, it's like we still not gonna bow down, And like I said, we read all this stuff and you sort of be like, it's just like, man, when it can actually be show itself, I guess, in our lives, and it makes me a person, kind of like you said, just like it makes it, like, oh man, I remember when God did this, I remember when God did that, and it just, it's like the doubt is cast off, fear is cast off, all those things that gets in the way of, us having the type of faith we should have, or, just believing that, man, God really is, he really is all powerful. Am I done? I think so. I'm sorry.
I think we can see God's power more. To me, it kind of coincides with when you're talking about our lives are a book or a path that God has placed before us. It has a beginning and an end, and God already knows that. So when we have faith, our faith is strong, we're walking on that line, and we're following this path that God has for us. And then, and when we're walking in that path, I think we're able to recognize what God has done for us in our lives, and that helps build our faith, which makes his power, I won't say make it stronger, it makes us see his power. So it's kind of building up.
Yeah.
And then when you get off that path, you stray or whatever, then your faith meter drops. So then
Your faith meter?
It drops. So then you stop seeing what God has done for you. And then I don't want to say you stop believing, but you pretty much stop believing. And you don't recognize those things. So it's like you have blinders on, and it's like, well, why am I going through what I'm going through? Then you have to sit and evaluate, am I where God wants me to be right now? And if I'm not, show me the path to get back, to get back there. And so then you see, well, God did this for me. Well, that meter just goes up again. So I think it's a continual cycle or a continual race, this marathon, but it focuses on God down your path. So the more you recognize what he's done for you, then that you see his power. And it's just continuing. It's continuing.
So it's like you basically kind of, I'm going to be real quick. You talking about like Peter, because Peter, he was walking on the water and he started to, when the winds kind of got high and stuff, and he's like, his faith meter dropped. And so did he.
Yeah.
Like Q said, he said, we allow our small faith to allow God to like a small God.
Say it again.
We allow our small faith to allow our God to like a small God.
Small faith, small God. You got a shot.
I was just gonna comment on what Tia said about you're walking the line, and then you said the word that I wrote down. You were talking about how we see, as we follow God, we can look back and see all the things that he's done for us. And the thing that stood out to me was the fact that it's the focus. We're doing what he said and we're following, his path, and our focus is on him, so we can keep walking that straight, the path that he's laid for us. But when we do like Peter, and we just that for a moment, oh wait, I heard something, I saw something, I felt something, any little thing to the left or the right, and where's my focus? It's not where it's supposed to be. So yeah, I'm gonna go like you always say, riding a motorcycle, whatever you aim for, that's what you're gonna hit. You're swerving, whatever. You always say that. And I'm thinking, if I'm walking the line, but I'm not looking at what I'm supposed to be looking at. I'm looking over here and over there. That's where I'm gonna go, and that's not where he wants us to be, because our focus is off. And if we keep our focus on him, then we can walk accordingly. And I was gonna say, before we talked about how we're in, not having the faith or the doubting that God can do whatever he can do. And I feel like sometimes that creeps into our lives because we always want to know and understand, why God moves or how he moves. And if we could understand how and why he did what he did, that would make us what? And that's not, you don't want to serve like she said, you don't want to serve a God that, you can figure him out. Oh yeah, well, he's going to do this, and that's like, you're bringing him down to the level of man, and he's, way beyond us. So, some of those things that we, those questions that I wonder this, and I wonder, we always come up with these hypotheses and all these questions, and I'm like,
Don't matter.
it doesn't matter, right? In the grand scheme of things, wait and ask God. When you get to heaven, ask him, because we want to ask everybody else to answer those questions that, we're man, and we have our little finite mind in his own so much that we know, but he knows it all. So if we save those questions for him, we can handle it.
He can handle it. Verse 17 and 18, I want to read it again, and I'll ask the question. It says, how precious also are your thoughts to me, O God? How great is the sum of them? If I should count them, it would be more in the number. They would be more in the number than the sand. When I awake, I am still with you. The question says, how does God, according to those two verses, how does God feel about you? That's a very important question, or important to understand. Well, your answer is important. I'll put it like that. Your answer is very important.
My answer?
Yes, your answer, specifically your answer. Take it away.
It was good to know that even though he knows everything, he knows everybody, he still loves us enough to care, loves us enough to care how we think and to care, about us on such a sentimental level.
Amen. Anybody else? As precious are your thoughts, and how great is the sum of them. If I should count them, they would be more in number than the sand. Anybody ever been to the beach? You ever try and count the grains of sand, in your hand? Yeah.
If you think about,
I'm trying not to answer first.
I don't know, if you know, well, you don't have to know a famous person, and that famous person recognizes you or knows you or calls you out.
Right.
How does that make you feel? How would that make you feel? You felt here at the top of the world. That's the way God is. Agreed. He's like the celebrity.
So Trey, if LeBron showed up at the house tomorrow, he'd be like, look at my boy Trey. You'd be like,
Yeah.
you tell all your friends, like, man, me and Ron like that, man. He was like that, this and that, you know. Or you think about sometimes you see kids like, it's like not necessarily like make a wish, but you see kids that maybe battle out of cancer or something like that, and you know they have like an athlete or somebody go to have them to a game, and it's just like, oh man, you know,
This means the world to them.
it means what. So we talking about like just athletes, you know, musicians, like we would. But when God thinks about you like that, and I think sometimes I've said it before, it's always easier. We always default to the negative or worst about ourselves. Well, God don't, you know, He don't love me like that. He don't think about me like that. Well, He does. He does, and it's not based upon like, you know, your. Unlike with people, because there are people that, in order to be in certain circles in life, a lot of times it can be based upon your performance, how you, what you doing for them, you know, what you doing to be part of that clique or group or whatever, you know what I'm saying? But with God, it's just like, you know, like the scripture, verse 14, it said, you were fearfully and wonderfully made. That's why I love you like I do. I made you for a specific, each and every person, like, he's like, I made you for a specific purpose, and knowing that, you know, God has these precious thoughts about each one of us. You know, I think it's important to know all the time, but I think sometimes in our times when we're struggling the most, it's a good reminder to like, man, you know what? God still loves me. And like nobody, like, and that's like, nobody can change that. No matter somebody else don't like you or somebody says something about you, even if you screw stuff up yourself, it's like, well, I still love you. It's like, let's go. I still love you. You know, and that's just, I don't know, that's powerful. That's just pretty powerful to me.
I think if you think about how much He loves you, then just to compare, say, you know, friend, how you think, okay, well, if I need them, I can call them or have my back or whatever. But if you think about God in that same light, as up so much that He died for us. So it's like, I don't know, is anybody else gonna step out in front of a, you know, whatever, moving vehicle or something to, you know, save you and block you from getting injured or harmed or hurt or whatever. But you think about the love that God has for us, and but don't think about it in group. Put it on just you, you know, because it's individual. And it's like all that love God did, you know, He died, even if it was for just the one person. So, but He did for the whole world. So, but you can, you know, personalize it and say, you know what, He died for me. He loved me so much. So, man, I must be special, you know, of course. So in those times when you start feeling down or you know, you doubt yourself or your worth or, you know, get to feeling however, you know, the enemy uses your past and that kind of stuff. But if you think about how special, you know, I am to God, man, then that should just, you know, that should boost you right up. I don't know.
And I think that's supposed to be what drives you to Christ. Knowing how much He loves you, because He's not gonna like, I like Debo would say, he's not gonna force you to love Him. He's not gonna force you to accept Him. But so for God, He's like, He loves the person that's out on that's homeless just as much as He loves the person that's like a billionaire. He don't have no respect to person. You know, He loves everybody the same, you know, and so God's position is like his position don't change. So he gives everybody an opportunity to receive that love that he's giving, you know. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't receive it because some people for different reasons, you know. But like I said, I think it's God loves it. Kind of like what I was talking about earlier, like when I gave an example about the pastor in the church, you'll never be able to share the gospel with somebody by condemning them, by embarrassing them, by making them shame. You're not gonna. That person is not going to change. Not the way that you may get them to like conform to when they're in a certain environment. You may get them to conform to that, but for that person to have a change in here, like an everlasting change that only God gives, it's not going to come from it. It's going to come from like, you know, loving like Christ love, you know, because just when Jalen was at it might have been last year at Sam, he was talking about it was a group from a church or religious organization, you know, and it was like had these big signs, you know, it was like, you know, and it had like just different sins or whatever, like, you know, you going to hell, and it's like, man, because that's what I read, that's how Jesus won them over, like telling people how messed up. The only people that just like in the scripture I opened up with, the only people that Jesus was, I guess if you will, chastised were the people in the church, were the religious people, the ones that were supposed to know, you know, that were supposed to know better, you know. But people that were, you know, the people that were the self-righteous really were the people that he was on, you know, because they should have known. They should have known. Okay. We're gonna try and wrap up the last 3 questions here. It says, number 6 says, what would your life be like if God wasn't all powerful, all knowing, or all present? What would it be like?
Chaos.
Chaos.
I feel like eventually it's gonna be like that. It's the sad part. The rapture happens, he's gonna take us, and the Holy Spirit's gonna lead the earth. It could be just like that.
I think most of us would not be here. And I can attest to that. I mean, just knowing God and listening to listening to Him, and you know, I mean, simple things like maybe delaying you from leaving to go to work and that goes up. You know, and then you find out, well, there's a bad accident at the intersection you always go through. Or, you know, I've seen that happen numerous times. Or, I mean, like when Tamia was born, I practically drove myself to the hospital. But it was God that led me to do that, because had we not gone when we got there, neither one of us would be, you know. So yeah, I know I wouldn't be here. And Nathan's not here, I'm gonna pick on him. The other thing is when you knowing that God knows what He knows, you know, and you can look back on it, you know, when, I don't know who all knows this or not, but when I was pregnant with Shelby, Nathan and I were not together. We had broke up, we didn't want to see each other. He moved to Dallas, I stayed in Austin, he didn't know on the babies. I could not stand it. I didn't like him.
I'll hold back.
I'll tell you. And he came when she was born, and this person that hadn't seen him in months. I'm not even sure he was working. Like I said, I couldn't stand being single with him. And how did, during that time, I told him, yes, I would marry him. How? I always tell him it was a morphine. But knowing what all we've gone through and the family we have now, where we are in our walk with the Lord, I mean, none of that would have been possible if I'd listened to Tia.
Does he have a comment on there? No, all right.
Stop typing.
We were just wrong.
Yeah, disconnected.
Number 7 says, how can knowing all these 3 things about God help you to be more bold in talking about God with others and loving others? Or I would say just how can they help you in life in general? I mean,
And, God knows everything about us. He still loves us. Because when you know something about somebody and you just know that if God's willing to give us a second chance, and tells me give other people second chances.
yeah.
So it just gives us an idea of how we're supposed to be loving people.
I think it gives you I was gonna say a testimony, but it gives you, when talking to others, it gives you, you know, when you start talking about God, there's something to share versus, I guess, like some personal versus just like, oh, I read this, but a lot of times people want to hear your personal, because sometimes I think people, you know, when you start sharing with somebody, a lot of times people don't want to just hear like, you know, they don't want to just hear you tell them, well, you know, John 3:16, like they need it to be personal. And I think by understanding like how God is all knowing, all present, all powerful, how it gives you like, it puts a personal stamp. Like I said before, there's no blueprint for going to share with somebody. I mean, I know people try it, but I don't think it's effective. I think people want you to be real, and being real is just sharing, you know, how those 3 things, just, I guess what those 3 things meant and mean in your life today, you know. Who's a microphone?
Hello.
Don't worry about it. Okay. Back to me. Anybody else? I know Nita got some on the paper she wanted to share. Trey?
Nate's not saying nothing. Is he blowing at my phone?
You want me to go now, Red, or you got something you want?
No.
Okay.
No, if he just, no.
He's like, I can't believe you.
He was like, right? Really? Wow.
I'm ready.
With his face, he took me.
Last question says, sometimes we feel the need to be all powerful, never run out of energy, all knowing, always being in the know and everywhere, never miss out on anything. How can this create problems for us and others? And what difference does it make when we let God be God in these ways?
Like you were saying earlier, puts us, I mean, that didn't put God on our level, that put us on God's level. So there would be no point of, serving a God who's that powerful. But how it causes problems is if we think we can fix everything, we're not going to depend on God. And then I'm sure we think that instead of, trying to lead people towards God, we're going to try to lead them towards us.
Bingo. Bingo.
I think also how it can cause, let me see how to answer it, create problems for us. It's like when we have to know everything, I'm understanding these questions, but we want to know the answer to everything and, why the, universe is in the order that it's in. It's like, I don't know, it's kind of like taking that scientific approach to level. We always want, it's like man always wants, we want to know everything. It's like we're too nosy to degree. It's like, we want to find out this and what makes this tick and that tick and how do we have to know everything? No. It's almost like makes me think of I'm trying to have a surprise party and you ask me all the questions. It's like every time, who is that you on the phone with? What is this note about? And, you can't even enjoy it because you're working so hard to not tell. But no, we don't need to know everything. I mean, it's almost like getting in a gossip. So what happened to her? I wonder what happened. You go calling people, and we need to mind our own business. I know it's in here somewhere where it says, be busy with your own hands, and we don't have to be in everything. I think it causes trouble. Sometimes when we bring stuff up, it may cause somebody else who's lesser, maybe new in the faith, and for us to bring certain things up, maybe because we want to find out everything or, run everything, whatever, it may cause them to stumble, following after us instead of, actually focusing on Christ like we're supposed to. But we don't have to know it.
And like when we start trying to do too much, then eventually we're putting faith in our own abilities instead of thinking about it.
Nathan says, sometimes being in the know all the time can lead to disappointment and heartache. Like those comments you just
Because when you know sometimes you're responsible, then,
Okay.
I was kind of like what Troy said on the second part. I said the difference doesn't make me like God. It's like it just shows that it's us exercising our faith and trust in God. And the problem with when we doing all this other stuff, trying to be all attempting to do this other stuff, trying to be all powerful, all knowing and everywhere. It's like if people look at that, like what Deontay said, people start looking at you, it's like if you become somebody's God, then they're missing out on the true God. And then two, it gives them because you're going to disappoint them. You're going to fail them. It's just, there's no, I'm saying, like, man, he said he's going to be there for long. It's like, that's just not. God doesn't anyone, and not too bad. Like as a parent, we're not gonna do that puppet master thing. No, I'm just like as a parent, you like to think that, and it really didn't hit till honestly to a grade went to college, because as a parent you think that, man, I'm control of this, that, whatever. When that first child leaves or getting ready to leave for college, God starts reminding you real quick, like you're not in control, because, and even as your kids get older, they'll come back and show you like, I did this one time when I was like, and it's like, what? I mean, like this crazy stuff, like, cause it's like, don't take me. But it's all this time you've been thinking like, I got it, and I think we tell ourselves that to make us feel like, but the reality is God just uses us as part of his plan should be more like teaching and overseeing versus trying to, to be all. I mean, I think kids do look to you for a lot of things, but even in that relationship, it's important to let them know that, God is ultimately, because I'm almost done. Francis Chan did this thing with his daughter. She was 14, 15, something like that, and this lesson he was talking about how if we're not careful as parents, we can become, in a sense, like the Holy Spirit to our children. And what he meant by that was like, when they're around you, you're gonna be, and stuff. They're like everything is on point. But the problem with that is like, when you're not there, it's like, man, the Holy Spirit gone, the Holy Spirit. But and so he did when she got to be that age, he started turning more like, you know what, teaching her that she's accountable for her own relationship with Christ, and that that is it's someone much greater than me that you're accountable to. And it was something she wanted to do, and he was like, you know what? He said, if you think that, he's like, so I'm gonna tell you, go to your room for like 5 minutes and pray about it. If the spirit's good with that, then I'm good with it. And it made her start looking at things a little bit different in some of the decisions that she was making about life, because sometimes, kids are no different. I mean, we all was kids one time, it's like sometimes you'll say whatever, but the reality is that you want it to be like, at some point taking ownership in that, like, you know what, this is what you want to do. It's like you can fool me, all that stuff, but like the lesson's been on tonight, like God knows everything. Everything. Amen. That concludes tonight's lesson.